Hi everyone, John Davenport here from Photogrammetry.com with another Let's Edit video. If you remember from the end of last week's video, this week we're going to look at another new tool in Lightroom 5, which is the Radial Filter Tool. I've done some creative stuff with it lately, just kind of playing around, and I'm going to show you how I created one of the scenes that I've published recently on the site. But before we get started, I did want to show you kind of one thing, which is something that I wrote about in a recent post for Digital Photography School. But I figured, you guys are using Lightroom, so I might as well share at least this one tip here with you. Basically, all it is if you hit the Command key, or if you're on a PC, it would be the Control key, and then you hit the / key, making sure your Lightroom is selected. You would bring up all the shortcuts available to you within the window that's active. So right now I have my library window active. These are all the library keyboard shortcuts. If, say, I jump into this photograph in my develop panel, which is the one we're going to work on today, and I do the same thing, Command or Control, and then the / key, these are all the develop module or whatever shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts available to you. So there's a whole bunch of them. I don't know nearly all of them by heart, and I'm still kind of trying to use some of them in my own workflow. For the purposes of these videos, I tend to click over here because it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. So if you've ever wondered why I'm clicking over here, that's usually why I do that. But in my own personal workflow, I like to use the shortcuts because they are a lot faster. So today we're going to work on this photograph, and like I said, the primary goal of this video is going to be to kind of introduce the radial filter and show some kind of creative ideas that you can use to enhance your own photographs. But before we do that, let's kind of just get this photo a little bit more lively. I think the first thing I'm going to do is kind of just brighten it up a little bit, add a little bit of contrast. Maybe bring the highlights down, try and bring that sky back in a little bit here, add some shadow detail, pretty much the standard stuff. Just adding a little more contrast, a little more depth to the photo, and all that good stuff. I am going to drop the vibrance down just a little bit to try and bring those greens back to not being so neon. They were a little bit neon there for my taste, and I am going to warm up the photograph a little bit. So, overall, it's an improvement over the before image. The before image was a little dull, and there wasn't a whole lot going on here. We've added a little bit more interest to the shot, but the Radial Filter Tool really gives you a cool little option to kind of draw the viewer's eye a little bit more. There's already kind of a vignette going on here. I was using a D600 with a 24-70 lens, and this was at 24 millimeters f2.8, and it looks like 1/320th of a second. So not the, and it was also at ISO 2000. So not like the best of settings for this scene, but I still think there's an interesting photograph to be made from it. So if you select your Radial Filter Tool here, which is this circular icon underneath your histogram, or you can also hit Shift M if you want, which will be your keyboard shortcut. And then, like many of the other filters, you just drag and click to place your filter, and you're free to kind of move it around. You can size it however you want. And basically what it's going to do is, by default, anything that you apply to this filter, so whether it be the temperature, tint, or any of these other settings, by default it's going to apply to the edges and then kind of feather its way into the center depending on how much you have the feathering effect slider increased or decreased. So you can see here, if I decrease it all the way to 0 and then get off of the filter, it's a very hard transition from the underexposed sides of the photograph to the inside of the filter, which doesn't actually take any of the effect that I was applying. I've been working mostly with the filtered effect because I think it's better to have that kind of subtle transition um, into the radial filter. I'm sure there are definitely cases where you would want it to be the other way around. What I'm going to do here today is I'm going to do kind of a tall and narrow radial filter. You can, add it however you want. And I'm also going to kind of go a little bit off center. It's going to be very subtle, but it's kind of, a leaning oval, if you will. Delete this one. So to rotate it, you would just hold your mouse to like any of the side, outside of the filter, and then you would get this little rotate icon, and you just click and drag to rotate it. So I'm going to do something like this, just to kind of see what it looks like. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to check this invert mask option. So what that does is instead of applying the filter from the outside in, it actually applies it from the inside out. So as you can see here, the underexposed area actually starts the darkest at the center of the radial filter, and then it feathers its way out to the edges. And I'm also going to change it from dark to light, which will help bring our viewer's eyes into the center of the frame. I'm going to increase the shadows here as well. Maybe drop the highlights down, which will help even things out a little bit. So it's a subtle change, but it does add a lot to the photograph. Now, I think, if you will, I think this does look a little bit better. It adds a little bit of interest to this tree here. I am going to add one more filter, though, which is kind of a cool thing, is that you can actually stack your radial filters, which I like quite a bit. And then with this one, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change my white balance. And I'm going to go to almost a full filter here. I'm also going to invert this. Something like this. Maybe like this. You can play around with it. So this one is kind of applied more generally to the scene. It's not tilted or anything. This one here you can play around with a little bit. I keep clicking off by accident, and because the problem is, like, if you get a little bit too far outside, and when you want to rotate, it actually turns into the crosshairs, which would be to add a new filter here. You would just click in to drag that. But what I want to do is I actually want to rotate this one a little bit more here and kind of extend it a little bit more. Maybe make it something like this. And then kind of brighten it up a little bit. I also want to feather it quite a bit more than what it is here. So something like this I think is going to work really well. And then what I can do is I can actually come here and I can drop the shadows down on just the overall, the second one that I added in. And it's kind of, a balancing effect and all of this stuff here that you want to do. Then you can come back into your basic tab and do some minor adjustments here. You might want to drop the shadows down, add even a kind of a more pronounced vignette, or whatever you want. I'm going to drop the whites down a little bit, and then I'm going to come down, final touch-ups, add a little bit of detail here, maybe mask out a little bit of the sky in the background, something like this. So, it's a little different than what I published before, but we tried a few different things, and I think overall it came out pretty good. It's definitely, like I said, a big difference between what we started with and where we ended up. Let me know in the comments, have you ever used the radial filter in Lightroom 5? Did you learn anything in this video? I'd be happy to do more on the radial filter tool as well in the future. So let me know. Anyway, that's it for this week. I'll try and be back again next week with another tip from Lightroom. Thank you for watching. Have a great one. Bye for now.